Hello everyone. So today we want to give you our perspective on what does it mean to be a master or a slave and give the analogy between being that master or being the slave of circumstances or people. And the only reason why we want to share this experience that we had recently while being in meditation is because sometimes we feel that we are spiritual or that we're doing the work, and at some point I wanted to know what does it mean to be a master, because we all claim this mastery, and I'm not going to speak about anyone in particular but myself. I claim to be the master and the teacher, and not of anyone but myself. But what does that translate in a real life scenario?
And the reason why we want to make the analogy between the codependency between master and slave is because it is real, but not the ones back in the 1800s. I'm talking about the relationships today between husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, at home, parents and children, a professor and student, even among friends. That can be a real scenario where one really imposes their points of view and tries to manipulate the other, consciously or subconsciously or unconsciously. So it makes no difference. When you become someone's slave, even though it's a harsh word, it really just means to be the victim of how you feel about that person, or what he says or she says, and what he or she does to you. So the moment you allow for your emotions, for your mental stability, and that peace within to be interfered and to be overshadowed, you are becoming the slave of that circumstance or that person, whether we know it or not. And the only way to become free and take a place of mastery is when we are able to really stand on our power and hold back a few seconds and think about our response to that situation, to that person, to whatever they are saying to us, and really choose carefully how we're going to respond rather than react in that moment.
Because at some point, when you have worked on yourself for so long, and again, this goes back to us, not to anyone else. We have done the work so much, and sometimes we find ourselves reacting to circumstances, and mostly to people. And at that point, I have to ask the question to myself: am I really being in my mastery? And the answer is no, because to us today, what mastery means, or what being a master translates to is: am I mastering my emotions? Am I being in charge of my emotions, or someone else is in charge of my emotions? Am I being the master or the slave? Because if I confront someone in a conversation, at that moment we can choose what place to take, and we can choose to be the master by allowing words of wisdom or of compassion. Forget about wisdom, compassion, sweet words to come out from our mouths, or are we responding aggressively or defending our point of view? Because at that moment, then we are just the slaves of the situation, of that person that is triggering something in us, that it's either bringing out the master or the slave at that moment.
And now, once you get out of that victimhood, just really feeling the victim of that situation or that person, which really is always about the person that creates a situation, you don't become the master, meaning the master of someone else's master. You simply take on your mastery and recognize that, and you do it because of you, for you, not for the other person. Obviously, it will benefit the situation and the other person as well, and it will make the situation completely, it's going to transform the situation. So the invitation, I think, for the moments that we have found ourselves in that place of slavery, if you want to say it in those terms, uh, brings us into almost immediate awareness that we're not the most loving towards that person, towards that situation. So that's why we decided to do this video, to really reinforce the importance of holding back for a few seconds and practice, because this is not something you become overnight. It takes practice.
Mastery takes practice.
Yes, and we believe that if you can become aware 21 times, and you can count of any situation that you bring into your reality on purpose, because your soul wants to expand, your soul really wants to transcend to higher levels of existence, and the only way to prove that you are worthy of that transition is through these tests that our own souls bring into our realities to see if we're ready. So 21 times really is the magical number to see if we create new habits in the way we respond to any given situation that we bring into ourselves, into our realities.
So basically, just to shorten this topic, is at any given moment, we have to ask ourselves this question: am I being the master or the slave? If you find yourself responding, not responding, but reacting to a person or a situation, you can be also mad at the government, the situation, the economy. Then we're still being slaves of the situation. At that moment, once you become aware, we can switch immediately to our mastery and say, okay, I'm not the victim of this person. I'm not the victim of this situation. How can I bring the master to this situation? How can I bring the highest aspect of myself at this moment and stop? And instead of sounding defensive or feeling that I have to retaliate, then be more like, okay, you know what? I see your point. And at that moment, you change immediately the dynamic of the conversation, and you can hold back and just listen. And it's in that listening that also we can actually say more, because now we stop reacting to anything, and that's how we become at that moment the master. And it's okay to sometimes forget or to go back into feeling that victimhood, and it's just a matter of remembering
Practice.
and practicing. How do I bring mastery to this situation? And again, mastery translates to being compassionate towards the situation or towards the person that we are having any confrontation or any kind of circumstance at that moment.
Which it raises also the question that you can ask yourself at any also given moment: are my words carrying the medicine within or the poison within? And that's important, because if we ask ourselves that question, we immediately know the answer, whether we are being the medicine or the poison, whether we are adding or subtracting from someone's energy. It's all about awareness. It's all about becoming redundantly aware of how we go about our days, because sitting on meditation, it's beautiful and it brings you peace, but can we carry this peace throughout the whole day? And that's the challenge, because when we meditate, it's amazing.
And it's easy
magic.
to be a master when you're in silence and no one is bothering you. But when we're in situations that require that master to come out, that's the challenging part.
And to be
implemented.
implemented.
And it's not easy. And it's okay to, at any moment before we enter into conversation, whether it's a business meeting or a conversation with our partners or friends, or it doesn't matter. It has to do with holding back, and before we have this conversation, say, I'm gonna try to bring that master that I am.
And it
into this
becomes
situation.
easier and easier once we continue practicing awareness. So I'm not saying
Becomes a
throughout
habit.
your whole life you're going to have to always set an intention and make sure your higher self is invited into the conversation. No. Once you create a habit, you become that character.
Yes.
So it only gets easier. So also the frustration that can bring the fact that we fail in a situation, it's okay too, because we are all learning to become more expanded. So it's okay to allow ourselves to fail in any situations and react rather than respond. But the question that we often ask ourselves is, when does my point of reality start? And the answer is now. So no matter what happened 5 minutes ago, or 5 days ago, or in all these years that I have lived, it makes no difference. Your point of reality, our point of reality, is always in the now. So you can become and be and say anything that you want from your highest essence, which is love.
So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. We always appreciate your comments. Again, we're not suggesting this is how it is. This is how we feel about mastery, at least in our own path, in our own way of expansion. So your comments are very appreciated always. No matter if you completely disagree, we would like to hear that. So thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
Namaste.
Namaste.